there's a mic in front of you. Females be doing this, men be doing this. You can actually survive without man talk, sex talk for like a month. That particular part pissed me off, and that can affect your brand if you're a brand. These are conversations that girls should have behind closed doors with their girls, not something that you come outside to say. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hey, if this is your first time, hi there, welcome to the family. On this channel, my name is Etienne Brooke, and on this channel I share with you, I take you on a journey, sharing the things and the tips and the ways I'm navigating my life as a young adult. And I just rant sometimes, and I just talk about things that are happening around me and is affecting my life and the life of young adults like me. And so today on the channel, I'll just be talking about a few things. So recently, apart from the elections that have been coming, there has been a podcast pandemic. So we've seen a lot of podcasts coming up, people sharing their tips and what they want men to do, what they want women to do, and blah 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 blah. I have actually have a podcast here, but like I've not done that in like a very long time. But seeing this whole video podcast trending, there's been a lot of podcasts trending these days, and it's just exhausting to see, you know, some takes I'm like, go girl, and then some I'm just like, really, you know, it's just like, it's really crazy. And you know, this period I decided that, okay, I think that was like 2 days ago, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to watch this particular podcast and see, you know, what the whole fuss is about. So I successfully watched 2 podcasts in the last 3 weeks because I just could not stand certain things I was seeing on the internet, but I just brought myself to watch. The first one was the Frankly Speaking podcast. It used to be called Frankly Speaking, but I think now it's the Honest Bunch. Where Nedu is like, I think it's the anchor, I don't know, I think there are about 4 persons on that podcast, but like Nedu is like the, you know. And a lot of things have been said, and I'm not going to talk so much about him because I listened to that entire podcast, and I don't think I have a problem with the entire podcast, but I had a problem with his delivery, you know, and I'm not about to talk about that because that's like far gone. People have moved past it. But I think for the Caramel podcast, I'm so sorry, I'm not supposed to mention name here, but like I'm just trying to make sure that you get it. So I don't know what the title of this podcast is. Something Rant, Band and Confessions. Yeah, Rant, Bands and Confessions. RBC, yeah. That's the name of the podcast. And that was their first episode. So now guys, I watched it, and in my true scripting fashion, I wrote down everything, like everything I want to be talking about. Like I wrote down every single thing. So from how I felt, you know, everything is highlighted, like everything. I don't know, oh gosh, you guys should be able to see it. I highlighted everything. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about it. I'll be able to talk about everything. But if I cannot, well, I'm definitely going to touch everything. So I'm just going to be looking at my book and looking at you guys at the same time. So I have here first on my list transactional relationships. So what is it about transactional relationships? So first of all, I'm going to tell you how I felt about this podcast. It was very, very, very windy. Like, I know that this is very typical of long conversations, especially when the camera is on and you have a mic. A conversation that is always so long, you begin to contradict yourself when you're talking, and that happened a lot in this podcast. It's as if one moment we 4 transactional relationships. It's like, I need the money. If I do this for you, you need to give me the money. What are you bringing to the table? And all of that. And then somewhere in the middle in the podcast, it's like, hey, as women, we should not do that. There are women that are satisfied with this. There are women that are... And I was like, what side are you on? It's not like... And for both sides, it sounded quite passionate. So it's not like it was an opinion. Oh, sorry, it was not like it was a balanced argument. It was like a personal opinion. So it made me wonder what side they were on when it came to transactional relationships. They were just everywhere. And I know that happens a lot. And this is only bashing them. I know that happens a lot in, you know, very long conversations. When you're having long conversations, or when a discourse is very, really long, you find yourself you just backtrack. Sorry, you backtrack. you like you just, it's not like you go back on what you've said before, because it just looks like maybe somebody has said something that has made you have a second thought and all of that. Then there's like a back and forth. That really happened a lot on this podcast. So yeah, and also just rest assured that there are certain things that, you know, there's how blogs like sieve out content, and you should know that when it comes to social media, everybody's looking for followership and engagement. They're looking for the numbers because that's what brings them money. So they're going to take a part of the podcast that is going to make them money, the part that is going to drive traffic, the part that's going to get people talking, and then they'll put it out there, and then they'll have you talk about it, and then everything just becomes an entire mess. So that's how this particular thing happened. So how I felt when it started, to be honest, it was just really there. To be honest, I was just like, okay, what's this podcast about? What do they want to talk about? You know, because typically podcasts with women, somehow men talk used to happen. It happens even in conversations with, you know, girls. It just always happens. So I expected that. I knew it was gonna happen. I tried. I wanted to click out, to be honest. I wanted to click out. Nothing really made me want to click out, but I was not really feeling the vibe. It was just three girls, you know, talking, and, you know, there's a vibe I felt, you know, that wanted, like, I felt like clicking out, you know, but I just told myself, okay, if I'm going to click out too early, how am I going to get the entire gist? How am I going to create this content that I had in mind to create, if I don't listen to everything? So I sat down and I listened to it. I don't know if I did myself a disservice by listening to the entire thing, but I think that I don't completely disagree with everything that they said, but I was just, that they said, but like, I just have a problem with delivery. And I'm just going to say this, yeah. I just think that some conversations are meant for behind closed doors. They're meant behind closed doors. They're meant for behind closed doors. Like, you're not supposed to have those conversations in public, like, because people are going to say things and they're going to misrepresent what you're saying. And you may say, oh, I don't care, blah 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 blah. But when you say certain things, there's an image, there's how people perceive you, and that can affect your brand. If you're a brand, that if you're trying to build a brand, that can affect your brand. If you've known me from way back, you will know that there are certain things I used to share. Like, there's certain things I used to share a lot. You know, I just used to run my mouth, kind of, and it used to be funny. People used to comment. I used to have a lot of engagement. Whenever I have those conversations, I used to have lots of engagement. But after a while, when I started taking myself more seriously, I just told myself, you know what, you cannot really be putting out contents like this, because you're not really going to be proud of yourself 5 years down the line. Then you look back at this content and be like, oh, I really made sense. I'm not trying to say that people don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all say things that we don't know. But I took those things down. You don't need someone saying it, that's their business. But I took them down, not because they are very bad. I just think that that's not how I want to be seen. You know, that's not who I really am. It's just something that just happens, you know, when you're just with your friends and you just open your mouth and you're like, wow, you know. But there are just certain opinions I have, or there are just certain opinions I have about myself. It's just how I perceive things, that I'm not comfortable with the public knowing that this is how I perceive things, if you know what I mean. And I think everyone just has that. We just have that, and I just don't think that you should always come online to say what you feel, how you feel about it, especially when it has to do with the opposite sex. Because when it comes to transactional sex and everything, yeah, men have been the propagators of these things for the longest time. Like, if you're a typical African, you will know back in the day, like, women were given out as commodities. Like, it's like the highest bidder kind of thing. So like, your parents would naturally ask a man if he has enough money to take care of it. That used to happen. And then now in our world today, women are now more vocal about, oh, he doesn't have the money, and now it's an issue. Not because we do not know that these things happen, or not because I wouldn't want a man to take care of me, or I wouldn't want a man who's financially stable, but this how you word it in public, and it just presents you as this person who's materialistic, which is something that I'm not particularly scared to call myself, but it's just like, When people see that you're materialistic, they automatically think that there's nothing else to you other than materialism. That's how people think, and so you should look out for yourself more. That's how I felt about this podcast. Like, look out for yourself more, because these are conversations that girls should have behind closed doors with their girls, not something that you come outside to say. Because the truth is, you're going to miss yarn. You're going to say things in a way that you did not mean to say, and that's what really happened in this podcast. Like they were here and they were there. One moment they are here, the next moment they are there, and that's how I felt about the podcast. Like, they were just everywhere. And like I said, the idea of starting, like, getting money for something, giving money for something, didn't start today. I mean, right from when I was like a teenager, I would hear certain guys say things like, "Oh, how am I going to spend money on you? And you're going to come to my house, and you're not going to give me this." These things used to happen. And I think the only problem now is that women are now demanding for it. I think that's the problem now. And one of the girls said something that really struck me. Yeah, she was like, okay, when it comes to bringing in value into the relationship, there's really nothing you can do that does not involve money. And I thought about it, and I was like, to an extent that's true, because it's like, okay, I love, like, and she was very, most of them, and I think all of them were very vocal about the fact that they like gifts. And rest assured that gifts is a sign that you love someone, yeah. Like away from them sounding transactional, like, there's a place for gifts in relationships. And they were like, what are you going to do for me that is not going to involve money? Do you understand? Is it coming to see me? You're going to have to fill your car, something like that. Everything involves money. So when we talk about men that have money, people immediately think that they want men who would foot their bills and stuff like that, blah 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 blah. I mean, most women may not say these things here, but I don't think there's anyone that's comfortable in a relationship where your resources are not invested in it. I don't think so. Like, I genuinely don't think so. I have been there in a relationship where resources were not invested, and then I remember how I felt. And I have been there where, you know, they were more, how do I put it, they're more liberal with their givings, and I know how I felt, and I know the difference, and it's like, I kind of understand what she meant there, that is really, there's almost nothing you would be able to do without money. But I think it's just like, because women are really talking about it now, it's just sounding really off. And like I said, these are conversations that you should rather have with your girls. Like, I sort of understood, like, it took me, like, I sort of understood most of that conversation, because it was not like, but then again, like, I just feel like, did you really have to say it, and did you have to say it the way you said it? So it's like, okay, we all know men know they have to be providers and all of that, but when you come out and look like you're entitled to the money, like, it's just like, it just gives hunger vibes. It's like you're hungry. Do you understand? Like, that's how it gives. But like, like I said, these are conversations you have with your girls. Like, just have your girls in private. Then I think one of the girls talked about the cultural aspect of it, where it's like they hire your money, they hire your value, and I actually agreed. I'm not saying somebody who doesn't have money loves you less. What I'm saying is, if somebody is able to invest, if someone has what it takes to invest his resources on you and chooses not to, the person doesn't value you, and that's the truth. Now, if I have someone in my life, a significant other in my life, and I know that I can afford to buy or replace his toothbrush, for instance, that's like the cheapest thing I can think of right now. Replace his toothbrush, for instance, or replace his hairbrush, for instance, or his charger cord, his power bank, for instance, and I choose not to do it, in spite of my capacity or my capability to do it, it means I don't value you. And I completely understood that. I really, really understood what she meant by that. And so, yeah, the issue of the higher the money, the higher the value. Yes, that's the truth, but not in all cases, because there are some men that don't just fear billing. There are men that spending money on girls is not really something that really means anything to them. They can always afford to splurge money, maybe because they don't make the money they don't really struggle to make the money, or the money really comes easy, or maybe it's just something that helps their ego. So that can happen too. That's also a thing. So yeah, I got that too from that podcast. So like, that's something I agreed with and sort of disagreed with. So yeah, there's that. Then the topic of submission came up. I do have a problem with submission. The word submission, yeah, I do have a problem with it. But then I could understand when there was a part where she said, when you do everything for a man, or like when a man does everything for you, it's easy for you to submit. I think people were now making it look like submission is transactional. I'm gonna be honest with you. Submission doesn't happen in a vacuum. Submission is something, and I'm not even trying to sound transactional, but submission is something that just doesn't happen in a vacuum. Do you understand? You submit to someone that you can trust, that the person's leader, you can trust in the person's leadership. You can trust that this person will not lead you to where you do not know. You can trust that this person has your best interest at heart. So submission doesn't typically take place in a place where every time you're selfish, every time you only think about yourself. Submission doesn't happen there. What happens there is you lacking self-esteem. That's how I see it, because it's like you don't have self-esteem. That's why you're not standing up for yourself. But if someone is making you feel like you're something, someone is making you feel like you're human, someone is not taking away from your pride, from your self-esteem, but instead the person is like enriching you, making you feel better about yourself. Every time you wake up in the morning, you're blessed that you have this person. Honestly speaking, submission, it's easier for submission to take place in that kind of environment. I'm not saying that a man has to give you 10,000 naira or $10,000 every month for you to submit. What I'm just saying is that it's just easier for submission to take place in an environment where someone finds or feels safe to do that. Submission is not something that just happens in a vacuum. I've never seen a situation where submission happens in a place. It's just somebody who has been brainwashed with doctrines of the church. That's how it happens. And this is not me saying that, oh, you shouldn't submit to your husband unless he did. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say that it's always easier, like, to find submission where both parties love each other genuinely, and where there's listening. This person listens to me. This person makes me feel heard. This person makes me feel like I'm something. This person makes me feel like I'm human. It's easier, like, you find submission in that kind of environment, as opposed to an environment where they are beating you, they are hitting you, he never thinks about you, he goes out, he never gets you anything. I completely understood that part, but I just think that the delivery was just what put people off, and it's just like people were just, all up in their heads and not willing to, like, just, give it deeper thoughts. Yeah, that's what I felt. That's what I felt about that. And they also spoke about, for men, one thing has to compensate for the other. Like, if they're giving you money, you can't get full of their attention. If you're doing this, you can't get, and all of that. I sort of agree with that, because of the stories I have heard. So it's like when a man has so much money, he feels like the money should be everything, and so he can offend you, do things, and then he's giving you money, and then he doesn't care about your feelings. But then I'm gonna say this here. I think that typically happens when maybe in the beginning of the relationship, it depends on how the relationship started from the beginning. It's like maybe one person may have presented themselves as less and so hungry for money that it just looks like they can throw money at you. It's like they can buy you. Somebody offends you and can't even tell you, doesn't even have the decency to tell you they're sorry, and they just throw money at you, and you accepted it the first time, accepted it the second time, and then as the time goes on, you realize that, oh, you're not comfortable with this kind of arrangement, and then you want to change it, and it becomes a problem. So I think that's a scenario that I can think of, or maybe it's just with a man who doesn't really care about your emotions and just feels like, and he's used to solving everything with money and just feels like he can solve situations with money, and so he just, that's the typical situation that I can think of, that things like this can thrive. And they talked about the vulnerability of showing or accepting their flaws. It takes away from the masculinity. Yeah, that's true. I think some men, and I think it's because of society, to be honest. I think society doesn't even make it comfortable for them to be able to do that. And I've listened to some men talk about it, that men have like women have used their their past against them, use their stories against them, and so that is why they just shut up about a lot of things and don't say, because they don't know if it's going to be used against them. I've never been that kind of woman. I've never done it before, so yeah, but I've heard people say it, so I can understand when a man holds back. But the truth is, no relationship thrives where there's no vulnerability. You just have to lay your guard down for you to be able to enjoy the relationship, because at the end of the day, love is the cause of the pain and it's also the cure. So it's like, you don't really know what's gonna happen if you really hold back. It's a risk, yeah. So if you really hold back, you never really know if you're gonna enjoy this relationship or not. So you just have to be open to your partner, and I think that a lot of men lack that. So they mentioned that in the podcast as well. So there's this very strong argument that men have needs, and men vocalize their needs, and so women should also vocalize their needs, and if their needs are monetary, they should not be afraid of it. And like I said, these are conversations you have with your girls. It's like, I mean, we know these things, yeah, because men are really not afraid to say what they want. Men go for what they want, and at least that's what we think, that men go for what they want, even though sometimes they end up with assholes, even though sometimes they end up with people that don't really appreciate them, but they always just leave people and go for people that they're always very strong-headed and like, oh, they're living, they know what they want, this, that, and it's like, okay. So if you know what you want and you're out there in search of what you want peace, you want that. So why can't I want money? That was the argument. And like I said, like the conversations you have with your girls, like I would have to say that on the podcast. It's just gonna present you in bad light. It's gonna make people think that, oh, this girl's a material girl. This girl likes money. This girl, she doesn't bring value. That's the only thing. But I mean, sometimes if you want to really think about it, some of these men don't offer any other thing else but money. And sometimes, because I remember one time I heard this guy saying, oh, he can't wait for him to have money so he can have any girl that he wants. And it was really, really a sad thing, because it's like, I know, yeah, money is something, there's a lot money can do for you, but you just really have to have value. But then the thing is, as much as you're in pursuit for this money, you should also be in pursuit for your own personal and internal values. Like, what do you bring? Like, what do you have within you? Because you might be attracted to a woman who really doesn't care about your money as much. I'm not saying they don't care at all, but like, they don't care about your money as much. What else do you bring to the table? So if it's just money, at the end of the day, if you meet someone who doesn't really care about your money, and do you really want to go through life and fall in love with somebody who only cares about what you bring, like material stuff? Who doesn't love you for you, but just loves you for the money you bring? So when the money is not there, what happens? Like, do you really want that for yourself? I just feel like men should actually like think about this a lot more. I don't know. I'm not here to advise men, because I really don't know what they go through. I've never been a man a day in my life, so I don't know. And then there was this other part. I had to do this over the last part where she said that women have men for everything. That particular part pissed me off. Like, it really, really pissed me off, because no, that's not true. Like, that's not true. I don't know, maybe the girls that she rolls with, or maybe the girls that she has met, or maybe the girls that she has come in contact with, the girls that are in her circle or used to be in her circle, or girls that, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, because it's like, I'm here and I have friends, the females that I have in my life. I do not know of any female that, you know, has multiple men for multiple things. Like, it's like they have men for this, they have men for that. I mean, I used to hear in the past that there used to be girls who have bigger men for money, and then they had the younger guys where they would collect the money from the bigger men to help to fund the lives of the younger guys. I used to hear things like that, yeah. But like, when you come out to say things like, oh, women have men for everything, they have men for this, they have men for that, I don't think it's nice. Like, I don't think that's true. That's not a true representation of every woman. And I just think that, I don't know, I think the way it was delivered didn't really sit well with me. And then, yeah, I think that's just it. It didn't really sit well for me. Like, it really pissed me off. It really, really pissed me off, because like, I'm here trying to do my best. This one is thinking that I have men for everything. Like, but then again, she's not talking about me, so I didn't really feel, I tried not to stay triggered, because I was triggered, but like, I tried not to stay that way. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, so my final point here would just be that I think I want to see more podcasts talking about navigating life in general, and not just relationships, love, money and everything, and talking about what men should do for them, what women should do for them. I mean, this is what is predominant in our society today, this is what's like prevalent in our society today, but I just think that I need more podcasts talking about, I'm not saying talk about serious things, because podcasts don't really talk about very, very serious things. You have the radio station for that, so yeah. You have TV for that, you have a Rise and channels for that. But what I'm just trying to say is that I want podcasts that's talking about like a lot of other things other than just this. It just looks like whenever a young girl there's a mic in front of you, there's a man like just talking about, oh, females be doing this, men be doing this. I just feel like that shouldn't always be a core conversation. Like, it shouldn't always be the only conversations that we have. We should have other forms of conversation. We should talk about other things, like things that would help our lives. Like, we should, like, there just has to be something else. I don't know what it is, but like, I think that I have successfully been able to put out at least 10 videos or even more videos on this channel so far, and I can say that not one of those videos have had anything like men should do this, men should do that, women should do, or maybe that's even the reason I don't even have lots of subscribers and followers. And maybe watching my video, maybe if I had that, people watch my video more. But I'm just saying that you can actually survive without man talk, sex talk for like a month at least, you know, and just have other conversations, a book even that you read, or what you think about a mental wellness, or what you think about. There are lots of things that we can talk about, and not just this. And yeah, I think that's just what I have to say about this podcast. I want to see more podcasts talking about topics that are not in this line, at least for a while. I think we need a break from all of this. We really need a break from this. And yeah, so guys, this brings me to the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it. I hope that you took a lesson or two, and I hope that I was not just ranting. I hope I said something reasonable. I mean, I'm very intelligent. I better get something out of what I said. So guys, I thank you so much for sticking around. Please don't forget to subscribe, share to your friends, like. Thank you so much, guys. I love you. See you in the next video.